Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jana Vallabha Girivarada Yashodhanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodhanandana Vrajajanaranjana Dana Vrajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Jabiha Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Shodhanandana Vrajajanaranjana Shodhanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Vijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodhanandana Vrajajanaranjana Vrajajanaranjana Shodhanandana Vrajajanaranjana Shodhanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Kiravana Yamunatiravanachari Tiravanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Vijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Anandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Shoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Shoda Nandana Braja Jana Yamuna Tiravanachari Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajak Acharya Ashtatara Shatashri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajak Acharya Ashtatara Shatashri Srimad His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Principal Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shuddhaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kundikiri Govardhan Ki Jai. Suri Varindhavan Dham Ki Jai, Suri Mayapur Navati Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Shamaveta Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai, Thai Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavari Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vande Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gauradaya Pushpavanto Chitoshando Tamonudo Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulangayate Girim Yakripatamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 6th chapter, text 28, which I must find. Give me one moment. Whoa. Give me 3 moments. Maybe 4 moments. You can get all of Prabhupada's books on your computer, which is what I'm doing here. I have them all. I've bookmarked today's verse. I think today we're reading verse 29. Yeah. So this is the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 6th chapter, which is entitled Conversation Between Narada and Vyasadeva, and this is text 29. Kalpanta idam adhaya shayanim pasyad yudhan vataha sishaishor anupranam vivishentaraham vibo. Should we chant? So we're going to try to chant it, all of you out there. If you have Prabhupada's books on your computer or on your iPhone or other mobile device, you can also get it. It's called Pocket Vedas. You can carry it around. You can carry it around with you. It looks like this. There's a little tilak sign. Where did it go? Right here, little tilak sign. You hit it. And I had this verse already up. You can enlarge it. You can read it. You have all the Vedas in your pocket. Previously, there was this word Shruti Dhara. Dhara means to carry, and Shruti means to hear. So Shruti Dhara means that one would carry with him whatever he heard, which means that in previous times, the brahmacharis, the students, would hear from their spiritual master and they would remember everything. You could actually also go on Krishna.com and access it, right? Have you done that? Is that Krishna.com or you have? Vedabase. You can purchase the Bhaktivedanta Vedabase, or on Krishna.com they have access to Prabhupada's books. But you can't. With the Vedabase you can search by phrase, by word. Here I don't think you can search by word, but you can search by verse. You have this? Pocket Vedas? So, in previous times the memories were perfect, so whatever they heard from their spiritual master, they would remember everything. But now, we're not Shrutidhar, we're iPod-dhar. We're carrying the iPod or the iPhone. And that's how we remember. But anyway, it's a great, Steve Jobs gets bonus points to create such devices where we can have all of Prabhupada's books right here. This is not an advertisement to buy it, I don't get commissions, but it's quite, you can have it on your computer, you can have it on your iPod, your iPhone, your iPad, wherever you go. You can chant shlokas. One devotee has created a Adobe Acrobat file which you can put on these, and he has all the shlokas. You can create Adobe Acrobat files and then download them to your mobile device. So just if you wanted just to, like for Brahma Samhita, if you wanted to chant the Brahma Samhita, you could have it here. Pull it out of your pocket, or better on your phone, which is good reason to have a smartphone. Then wherever you go, you'll be smart. You'll be smart Dara, carrying your smarts. Okay. So anyway, if you have access to this verse, 1.6.29, you can chant along, or maybe you can just listen and see if you can chant. Kalpanta idam adhaya, pantam idam adhaya, shayanem bhasyudan vataha, shayanem bhasyudan vataha, sishayishwaranu pranam, sishayishwaranu pranam, vivishentaraham vibaho, vishentaraham vibaho, kalpanta idam adhaya, pantam idam adhaya, shayanem bhasyudan vataha, shayanem bhasyudan vataha, sishai ishwaranu pranam, shai ishwaranu pranam, vivishentaraham vibo, shentaraham vibo. Let's chant it one more time. Please pay attention, students, so that you can chant along. Kalpanta idam adhaya, kalpantam idam adhaya, shayanam bhasyudan vataha, shayanam bhasyudan vataha, sishayishwaranu pranam, shayishwaranu pranam, viveshantar aham vivo. So we're going to read the word meanings for all you Sanskrit scholars, and Srila Prabhupada read the word meanings. Kalpa ante, at the end of Brahma's day. Idam, this. Adhaya, taking shelter. Shayane, having gone to lie down. Ambhasi, in the causal water. Undanvataha, devastation. Sisaishoho, lying of the personality of Godhead. Not lying as in terms of telling a lie, but lying down. Narayana, Anup, lying of the personality of Godhead, Narayana. Anupranam, breathing. Vivishe, entered into. Antaha, within. Aham, I. Bibaho, of Lord Brahma. Of Lord Brahma. Translation: at the end of the millennium, when the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayana, lay down within the water of devastation, Brahma began to enter into him along with all creative elements, and I also entered through his breathing. So Narada is continuing to tell his story of his self-realization and subsequent rebirth as a liberated soul, from a conditioned soul to a liberated soul to eternally liberated soul. Narada is also known as the son of Brahma, as Lord Krishna is known as the son of Vasudeva. The personality of Godhead and his liberated devotees like Narada appear in the material world by the same process. In other words, they don't appear as ordinary conditioned souls. As it is said in Bhagavad Gita, the birth and activities of the Lord are all transcendental. Therefore, according to authorized opinion, the birth of Narada as the son of Brahma is also a transcendental pastime. His appearance and disappearance are practically on the same level as that of the Lord. The Lord and his devotees are therefore simultaneously one and different as spiritual entities. They belong to the same category of transcendence. So because Narada and other eternally liberated souls may sometimes come to the material world to assist the Lord in his in the service of liberating the conditioned souls, then their coming to this world is not due to their karma, but it's due to the Lord's will, because they have no karma. And our coming to this world is for two reasons: because of our karma and because we want to enjoy. So there's a vast difference between liberated and conditioned souls. And naturally, when the liberated soul comes, they have no business in this world other than the service of Krishna, and their association is very special. But when a conditioned soul becomes liberated, then there's no difference. Just as sometimes we may give the example that a person may be ill and another person may not be ill, but when the person who's ill is healthy, then there's no difference between him and the other person. They're cured. Sometimes they're even better because they won't get that illness again. But of course, liberated soul will never get the illness. So Krishna's activities are transcendental, and it's not always easy to understand the transcendental nature of Krishna's activities, especially when he does things which people, ordinary people, would not consider things that God would do. Then Krishna, therefore, is saying, Tattva, you have to understand my pastimes in truth. Janma karma cha me divyam. They're transcendental. My birth, my karma is divyam, transcendental. And you have to understand them in truth. And what Krishna means is that most people can't understand, because they look like ordinary activities, and sometimes they even look like the activities that aren't even ordinary, that ordinary people wouldn't even do, that not in a good sense, but in a bad sense. In the sense that ordinary people wouldn't go out with other men's wives. That would be only degraded people. Krishna likes to do naughty things, so like stealing, butter, like urinating on the neighbor's floors. So this is all divyam, transcendental. It's of a different nature. And to understand the divyam, the tattva, the truth of the tattva, we have to understand rasa, and rasa means relationship. So in studying Krishna consciousness, you have tattva, which is the truth of a situation, the philosophical understanding, and then you have rasa, which is the relationship. And so you must understand both. So in understanding why Krishna would do things which would bewilder people, such as dance with other men's wives, play, fight with his friends. So what does God do? He plays. He plays all day. So you have to understand rasa. And Krishna's doing this for rasa. Rasa means relationship. He's doing this to establish friendship with the devotees, to exchange love. So when Krishna dances with other men's wives, it's because those other men's wives want to dance with him. And it's because there's a special rasa, or a special taste, that is relished when Krishna dances and has a relationship with a woman who's so-called married. It's sweeter. Now, who would understand that? If one is not a devotee, if one doesn't understand tattva, you'd say, well, why doesn't Krishna just dance with unmarried girls? Why does he like to dance with married women? I mean, if you dance with unmarried girls, nobody's going to really find fault with you. That's more normal. Well, in that culture, that wasn't even normal, but more normal than dancing with other men's wives. And why do you need to steal yogurt from the neighbors when you have enough at home? Because it creates rasa with the gopis who he dances with, or it creates rasa, relationship. It enhances the relationship with the gopis with whom he steals butter, from whom he steals butter. So that's why he does it. And it's more difficult for the gopis to see Krishna, so because they're married and they have husbands and families and they have to escape. So it increases the feelings of separation and the need to be with Krishna and the difficulty to get there. It all increases intensity of the love. So when Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam, this is what he means. That to understand, that you have to understand the rasa to understand the tattva. And unless you're a devotee, you won't understand these things, because unless you're exchanging love with Krishna, how will you understand that Krishna would do these things? And why he would do these things, which apparently are, from the material point of view, are abominable. But it is said that what is abominable here in the spiritual world is the highest, and vice versa. So, the exchange of love between male and female, between Krishna and the gopis in the spiritual world, that's the highest. It's the highest rasa, it's the summum bonum, it's the ultimate. Radha Krishna in meeting, it's the highest. There's nothing higher than that. And Radha and Krishna are not married. But the meeting of a man and woman in the material world and sexual affairs, that's the lowest. Of course, the perversion is the highest in the material world, but that perversion is the lowest. It's not even allowed in the spiritual world. So and then when Krishna says to understand tattva, what does Krishna mean? He means that the tattva is that there's nothing mundane about Krishna's rasa. But if you're in material consciousness, you can't understand that. You'll just think, oh, this is like ordinary affairs between men and women. It has nothing to do with that at all. There's no tinge of any material modes of nature. There's no tinge of bodily conception. There's no tinge of male-female. It's only pure exchange of love. But unless you're on the path of bhakti, exchanging or making an effort to exchange pure love, how will you understand that that's pure love? You won't, because you'll only relate to it according to your experience, and you don't have experience of pure love. So the pure devotees, they understand the purity of the exchange of Radha and Krishna. It's the highest and most intimate, and extremely difficult for anyone to understand. Even those who were practicing Krishna consciousness, it's difficult to understand. But that's what Krishna means, evam yoveti tattva, to understand the truth. So what is the tattva of that rasa? The truth of that rasa is that it's pure. There's no tinge of anything impure. But how can there be a tinge of anything impure in Krishna and Radha? And now, the tattva of that is that Radha is an expansion of Krishna, so Krishna is simply enjoying himself. And Radha is the female counterpart. So there is no difference between Radha and Krishna. And Krishna expands in the gopis. He's only enjoying himself. It's his own energy. That's the tattva. But all these things are understood by devotees who study the scriptures and who hear from the spiritual master. Then they understand the tattva, and then by understanding these are expansions of Krishna, and then Radha expands into these different forms, and they're all expansions to give Krishna pleasure, that everything exists in the material creation to give Krishna pleasure. So the gopis exist, and Radharani expands into many gopis to give Krishna pleasure, and the gopis engage in service of Radharani because she can give Krishna pleasure, and Radharani serves the gopis so they can give Krishna pleasure. It's all, that's the tattva. That's how we understand it, and they're all just expansions of Krishna that he's created for his own pleasure, because Krishna's pleasure is everyone's pleasure, and Krishna's pleasure is the devotee's pleasure, and the devotee experiences more pleasure than Krishna experiences. The Radharani experiences more pleasure than Krishna. The gopis experience more pleasure than the Manjaris experience more pleasure than Radharani. So it's all. This is both tattva and rasa. So Krishna's doing all these things just to expand love. That's why he does it. That's his motive. So an ordinary person who's trying to understand God will have a difficult time understanding the intimate rasas of Krishna unless they understand the tattva. So therefore there's 9 cantos of Bhagavatam before the 10th canto, so you understand the tattva, then you can understand the rasa, right? Because if you don't, so it's that same Krishna who created the universe, but now he's in his original form, Shama Sundar in Vrindavan, and this is what he does. What does God do? At home, when he's not creating and maintaining and destroying the universe, what does he do? He's with his devotees, exchanging love. That's his program. That's what he does. What does God do when he's relaxing? He's playing with his friends. They're mock fighting. They're stealing lunches. They're herding cows. This is the original form of God. This is the form in which we can exchange the greatest, most intimate form of love. And this is the form that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas worship. This is their goal. In one of the four rasas, this is the goal. To exchange love with Krishna as a servant, as a friend, as a parent, or as a conjugal lover. And so, with this understanding, with this tattva, now, if you look at Krishna's leelas, his pastimes, in Vrindavan, then you understand that everything Krishna does is to enhance rasa with his devotees. It's to increase their love and affection. Everything. He doesn't do anything that doesn't increase the love and affection of his devotees. That's Krishna. Because he's the summit, Rashikar Shekhar, he's the summit of rasa, of relationship. And he exists to relish relationship with his devotees. Every devotee. He exists to relish relationship with every living entity. But unfortunately, some living entities don't want to relish relationship with Krishna. They want to relish relationship with Krishna's external energy. So they're more concerned with his energy and enjoying and somehow trying to exploit his energy, but they're not so concerned with him as a person. And then as you advance in Krishna consciousness, you come to a stage where you gain a taste for Krishna's service, but beyond that, then you gain a sakti, an attraction for Krishna's person. So you might be blissful doing Krishna's service, but a higher stage is the relationship, the person, the attraction for the person. And that's the goal of Krishna consciousness. Then it's Sarup Siddhi. Your Sarup is to be servant of Krishna, and the perfection of that is you realize what that relationship is. You're aware of it. So, Krishna, he's not about exploitation. He's not about taking advantage of us, getting something from us, asking anything from us. He's only about love, exchange of love. And therefore he asks his devotees also to exchange love. And as I was saying, when you exchange this love, then you can understand the tattva of Krishna Lila, because then you understand the foundation of the Lila is all pure affection. And so then you'll read something in the Bhagavatam, it'll say, the Krishna touched the breast of the gopis, Krishna kissed, the gopis and Krishna kissed, and you'll understand at that point this has nothing to do with anything mundane. The only reason the gopis exist is to give Krishna pleasure, and Krishna doesn't enjoy material sense gratification. So we think, oh, Krishna touched the breast of the gopis, so he's enjoying that. Krishna doesn't have a material body, he doesn't enjoy material sense gratification, right? So if the gopis kiss Krishna, it's to give him pleasure, it's not for them to enjoy sense gratification. They also don't have material bodies. So we approach it from this point, well, I'd like to do that. That sounds enjoyable. And then if we approach it from that perspective, then we'll read those pastimes and we'll become agitated, because we're reading it from the material perspective, thinking the body's physical and thinking the mentality is one of sense gratification. There's no drop of the desire for sense gratification within the pastimes of Krishna. They don't have material bodies. They can't even enjoy material sense gratification. It's not even part of their consciousness to enjoy it. They only exist for Krishna's pleasure. So whatever they do, if they say, Krishna, we want to see you, or we're relishing your smile, or this, it's pure natural affection and attraction on the spiritual level, which has no tinge of any desire to get anything from Krishna other than to serve him. So when you see the pastimes, then you're seeing it as tattva and rasa. and you see it together. It's the same Krishna that creates the universe. It's the same Krishna that winds up the universe. It's the same Krishna that's detached and has the opulence of vairagya, of detachment, of the six opulences. He has no desire to enjoy materially. He's only exchanging affection and love with the gopis. Now, also, Krishna does that in front of us. Right? He could do it in a way, in a very concealed way, where these pastimes are not known in Bhagavatam, nobody knows about. But Krishna does it in a way that these pastimes are recorded in the Bhagavatam. So in that sense, he's doing it in front of us so we can see it. And why do we need to see it? Because then we can see this is what pure love is. Otherwise, how will we know what pure love is? We'll just imagine. I love God. So what is that? How does that manifest? What does that mean? Here's an example. Here are the gopis. Krishna has a headache. Narada Muni comes to the gopis. He needs the dust of your feet. Oh, we cannot give the dust of our feet to Krishna. That would be offensive. No. He said only the dust of the feet of my devotees will cure my headache. Okay, the gopis said. All the devotees said, but we can't do that. It's not proper. We'll go to hell. And the gopis said, no. Take it. Narada Muni said, are you afraid of going to hell? No, it doesn't matter if it'll cure Krishna's headache. So we give it. So the Bhagavatam then therefore shows us this pure form of love. And we say, okay, this is what love's about. Asti Shiva Pararatam Panashtumam Hadarshanam Marmahatam Karotuva. You can make me brokenhearted, you can be present before me, you can trample me. But Radharani says, if I can give you pleasure, my suffering is my greatest happiness. So we're learning, this is what love is all about. This is what Radha and Krishna is about. So then when you see the pastime, you understand this is the consciousness. But if you impose your consciousness on it, then you're not seeing the pastime. You're not understanding it. Because in our state, we can't really understand, you can't understand pure love. You can't understand the pure exchange of love between Krishna and the gopis, or between Mother Yasoda and between the cowherd boys or the servants. But you can understand it to the degree that you have it. And to the degree you have it, then you have insight into it. Otherwise, when you don't have it, you tend to see it from subjective perspective of how, if you were in that situation, how would you respond? How would you react? Right? So, first canto is the lotus feet of Krishna. We start at the lotus feet, we offer arti to Krishna, we start at his feet, we work up to the 10th canto, which is his smiling face. And then by reading the 9 cantos, we become qualified to hear, to understand what is bhakti. And then we understand divyam, the transcendental nature of the lila. That's the idea. And when you understand the transcendental nature of the lila, then you become extremely purified by hearing about it. Because then you enter you're able to enter the realm, to the understanding of the realm of what is pure devotion. Otherwise, if we talk about pure devotion and love of God, we'll tend to fabricate our own idea. It has to be something which it's identified in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as a science. This is what love of God is, this is how you get it, and this is what it isn't, and these are the symptoms of it. So how do you know you have it? Okay, here are symptoms. How do you know it's developing in you? Here are symptoms. How do I get it? Here are practices. It's all considered a science. It's not just, I accept Jesus and now I love God, and I look at your life and I look at the life of an atheist, and I don't really notice much difference. Other than, when you get a promotion, you say, praise God. And when you get in a car accident, you say, why did God forsake me? You don't get it clearly. So we have this story, a very nice story. Uddhava is living in Mathura. And Krishna has intimate relation with him. And Krishna says, please go to Vrindavan. And there you will understand what is love by seeing the residents of Vrindavan. So Krishna could tell Uddhava what love is, but when Uddhava saw the intense affection of the love of the inhabitants of Braja for Krishna, then he understood what love, at that point, then he understood love. He said, now I can see it, because I see it manifest in the devotion of the residents of Braja. So that's how we understand what love of Krishna is, through the actions of Krishna's pure devotees. Just like we see the activities of Prabhupada in preaching Krishna consciousness, and then we can understand what is the manifestation of love when it is exhibited towards the conditioned souls. In Krishna Lila, it's between Krishna and the devotee. And in Prabhupada's Lila, it's between Prabhupada and the conditioned souls. So the same intensity of love, which is manifest for Krishna, it's also manifest for the conditioned souls. And so now we can see love in action in terms of how love of God is expressed in affection towards conditioned souls, and therefore we see Prabhupada making tremendous sacrifice. So that's how we understand love of God. Otherwise, we'll just think I'm doing well compared to other people. Well, I have love of God because I believe in God, and I say a prayer, and I have gratitude. All right, that's okay. But love is far beyond that. Love, when there's love, there's disinterest in material things. There's detachment from material things. There's attraction to hearing and speaking and chanting and serving God 24 hours a day. There's a detachment from physical needs. That's love. That's how you know what love is. Otherwise, unless it's clearly explained, then you can think, I have love of God, just because you smoke some ganja and you get some realization, and you think you're a great devotee. Or anything could convince you. It's like we were saying the other day in class, that Jiva Goswami said that, somebody can chant the holy name and start crying. And they could appear to exhibit ecstatic symptoms. That could be fabricated. Especially if they're a good actor, they could get people to believe it. And we were told one man was making money by reciting Bhagavatam, and he was crying, and people would think he's crying while he's reciting Bhagavatam, so he's a very advanced devotee, so they would offer him money. But actually, he was just a grihasta dressed in saffron, and every morning he would put 2 chilies up his nostrils, and that would cause him to cry. So that you could fabricate, but the symptoms, the actual symptoms of love and the true symptoms of detachment that follow love, you can't imitate that. You can't fake that. You actually have to have it. So therefore, Jiva Goswami says, in evaluating love of God, the best criterion for the ordinary people would be to evaluate it in terms of one's detachment from material things and attachment to Krishna. But if you try to evaluate it by external signs of, when they chant, they're crying and this and that, that can be fabricated. It could be genuine, it may not be genuine. But these are detachment from material is a definite sign of one advancing in spiritual life. So that's our science. How do you know who has love of God? Because he's addicted to God. Because he's not absorbed in the material world. He's not calculating how he can enjoy, but he's absorbed in service, he's absorbed in helping other people, and he's absorbed in chanting and glorifying Krishna. And he has a taste. It's enjoyable. So when we're in that state, then when we hear Krishna's Leelas, then we can understand them. Then it all makes sense within that context. But it takes 9 cantos to get that understanding clear. It takes many, many years of hearing and chanting to understand the intimate Leelas of Krishna, to understand Rasa, and to understand Krishna, why he does things, and why the residents of Braja react the way they do. So, I want to see if anyone has any questions. Okay. Pajavali, Hare Krishna. If anyone has any questions or comments, please ask. Hare Krishna. Timothy said, well, wouldn't the husbands of the wives of the gopis start to hate Krishna? It's all part of a lila. It's all part of Krishna. It's all arranged by Yogamaya. So, because Krishna's arranging everything. So, the gopis don't have to be married. It's all part of Krishna's lila. He has them married. And the husbands are just making it difficult for them to leave, and they're escaping, so they escape and the husbands don't know, and then they come back and the husbands don't know. That's all part of the lila which Krishna creates, because it enhances. Just like if you're married, Timothy, it's a bad example, but we won't use you. If somebody's married, right? So marriage is, there's a saying, if you want to be happy for a month, get married. Right? You want to be happy for an hour, take a nap. Something like that. You want to be happy for a day, I don't know what you do. But marriage is, it's work. It's, becomes ordinary. You take care of the family, you work, wash the dishes, do the laundry, When you first met that girl and the sparkle was in your eye and her eye, you probably weren't thinking about washing the dishes and doing laundry. There's a commercial that was never released, and the commercial begins with a lady hanging over a cliff. There's a branch coming out of a cliff, and the cliff drops down hundreds and hundreds of yards, and she's hanging over it, and so the camera is above her, and she's looking up. This very beautiful, attractive woman, her breast half showing. And she's calling, and there's a mounted police, a ranger, who's riding on his horse, and he hears it. He hears her calling. So he comes. He runs over to see, and he sees her, and she's, help me. But she's kind of smiling at him like, I'm yours if you just help save me. So he runs back to his horse to get his rope. So he'll give her the rope and he'll pull her up. And he takes a drink of water. And this water, I think is called clarion or something. It's something about pure water, and it gives him a moment of clarity. So it flashes to the future, and he thinks, it was this thought process, if I save her, there's going to be an attachment here. So it flashes to him living with her, with 2 kids. He's feeding one of the babies. His mother-in-law is walking through, and they're living in a trailer, and he's looking really, really miserable, and his wife doesn't look beautiful like she did. She's actually pregnant again. And instead of saving her, he jumps on his horse and he rides off into the distance. It's like right out of the Srimad Bhagavatam or something. So, of course, this is kind of funny. This is like something the brahmacharis might talk about. But the point is, even the non-devotees know that after the romance is over, you get down to work. There are troubles or difficulties like. So if you're married, you're going through, you like your wife, everything's okay. But there's this beautiful girl at the office, and if you could just go out with her, that would be like an enlightened form of pleasure, right? And it's even if she's married and you're stealing her from her husband, it's more exciting. It's even more special, right? Just like if you have a criminal mind, it'd be more fun to drive a stolen car than to drive your own car. I mean, you drive your own car every day, but what if you could steal a Maserati and drive that around? Whoa. Even if you had a Maserati, it'd be more fun driving the Maserati, right? So you have to understand these things about Krishna, right? You have to understand how he thinks, and he only thinks in terms of what will create loving exchanges. So now, what's greater? Dancing with your wife, married? That's Dwarka. Krishna's with his queens. The love of the Krishna and his queens in Dwarka is not as intense because they're married, right? And Krishna doesn't dance with other men's wives because in Dwarka he's following certain rules. He's a king. He's following Dharma. But in Vrindavan he's just being who he is in his original form. So now, if it's difficult for the gopis because they have to sneak away from their husbands, and if Krishna can dance with another man's wife and it's difficult for them to get to see him in a secluded place, it enhances the rasa. So now it's more special. I finally got out of my house. And Krishna said, yeah, and don't tell anybody we're here. And so then they exchange rasa dance and like that. So the husbands are just under the influence of Yoga Maya. She's organizing everything. The husbands are just doing their duty. And they're not really married. Radharani's married. Not really. Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu means it's just a reflection. She's married to a reflection of Krishna. They're not technically really married. But it's there to increase the relationship. So the more you understand these things, the more it'll make sense to you. And if the husbands become upset, it's all arranged by Yoga Maya just to enhance rasa. That's the only reason they become upset. Just like Krishna's, Radharani's mother-in-law always is concerned about Radharani's relationship with Krishna, and she becomes upset thinking that maybe Radharani's not chaste, maybe she's secretly with Krishna. And it makes it difficult for Radharani to get out of her home and see Krishna, and it makes it difficult for Krishna to go to Radharani's home. So sometimes Krishna will come to Radharani's home and he'll be dressed up like a beggar so he could see Radharani, because Krishna's mother-in-law won't let him see it. So he once came as a sannyasi and he said, I need to beg some charity. So Jatila brought some wheat and rice and like that. Krishna said, no, I need it from a young lady or a chaste lady in the house. So she said, oh, Radharani, there's a Brahmin here, a beggar, sannyasi, give him something. And so she brings out wheat and rice. At that time, Radharani was very angry with Krishna. She was in Man, she was angry with Krishna. So she brought the rice, the ghee, the wheat, and like this. And Krishna said, I don't want rice and ghee. You know, he revealed who he was. He says, I want your anger. In other words, he wants to appease your anger. I want your anger. So she gave up her anger and she took the ghee and poured it on his head, took the rice, took the wheat, poured it on his head. So the fact that Jatila is there means Krishna has to do something like this to see Radharani. And then it happened the other way. Then Krishna once got mad and Radharani had to do the same thing, so she had to come. And she had to dress up like a boy. And she came to Krishna's house. And she helped Krishna do so many things, I forget the story. And then it was late at night, and Krishna told Mother Yasoda, he said, well, this young boy, it's late at night, can he just stay over tonight? So then Radharani stayed over tonight. So they have to do these things, so it makes it more relishable because it's more difficult. Just like, I don't know if you've seen any Hindi movies, but Hindi movies especially, of course, I don't watch movies, so I can only go on, well, sometimes I watch them on the airplane because you can't really not watch them because everybody's watching them, but I don't sit there with my headphones watching them, but I see them, and the Hindi movies that I see on the airplanes, I can tell what's going on, and sometimes I get very interested and I actually put my headphones on, but not too long, don't worry, I'm okay. And so there was one Hindi movie I saw where this girl fell in love with this guy, but the guy fell in love with another girl. But he fell in love with the other girl on the telephone. But the girl on the telephone was actually the girl that loved him, but he didn't love that girl, he loved the girl on the telephone. And the girl that loved him, she was his counselor, guide, mentor of how to love the girl on the telephone. And the girl on the telephone he thought was somebody else. He had, there's another girl, and he thought that was the girl, but it was this girl who was always talking. So it became this whole problem. And then when they finally realize it, then you have to deal with the family who doesn't like it. It's all these Hindi movies are all these problems, right? And they have to jump through a million hoops to finally, if it's not a tragedy, if it has a happy ending, they finally come together and fall in love and drive off in the sunset, and then in next month start washing the dishes and doing the laundry and changing the diapers. No, they live happily ever after. So if the movie was, so now, Timothy, imagine this was the movie. The first scene is the son and the mother and the father go to the house of the family in which there's a daughter that the family would like them to meet in a very, very proper traditional way. So they go and say, this is our daughter. And they list all the qualities. She can cook, she can dance, she can sing, she's got a degree in engineering, she has a good job, we have a dowry of so much. And then they present the son. He can do this, he can do that, he's got a good job here, he's got a degree here. They look at the charts, they look at the cast, everything looks good. They go, let's do it. The boy and the girl talk together. So what do you think? Yes, whatever my mother says, I like, you're good. Yeah, well, I'll do whatever my mother says. And the boy says, well, whatever my parents, if they think it's a good match, I'll do it. It's totally dharmic. And then there are a few more scenes of how everything's dharmic, and they talk with one another, and they're trying to develop affection, but it's going to come naturally because it's an arranged marriage, and they're not overly attracted, and they finally get married, and the movie ends. Right? Would that be an interesting movie? What would be interesting? They come together, they're madly in love, love at first sight, and the family, after they discuss everything, they say, I don't think it'll work, and the boy and the girl go crazy because they realize there was a mistake, and they realized there was one mistake, it was the wrong gotra, the wrong caste, and it's not going to work. And now the boy and the girl are madly in love, and now they have to disappoint their parents, and they meet in a secret place, and their mother says to the boy, if you marry this girl, I will commit suicide. And there's a whole drama, right? That movie is going to make money. That movie is going to keep you interested. So Krishna does the same thing. It creates drama. It creates excitement. That creates rasa. It's hard. You can't. It's hard to meet with Radharani. It's hard to meet with the gopis. It's improper. It's immoral. Young boys, young girls together. It's not right. That creates rasa, excitement, relationship. If it's just Radha and Krishna married, okay, they got married. All right, now what? They raise a family. It's not, they don't make movies of people getting married, raising families. It's not exciting. They make movies of people cheating on one another, right? They make movies of people disobeying authority because they're in love, disobeying parents, escaping, dropping out of school, giving up their careers for the one they love, living in a hut in the forest just to hide from everybody. That's what's exciting, right? So that's why Krishna does it. Hare Krishna. I don't know, did that help? But it's true. And all these Hindi movies, not all of them, but a lot of these Hindi movies, because we have this culture of Krishna Lila in India, that the Hindi movies are like reflections of this. They're all these challenges and the boy and the girl meeting, and then they finally meet, and what do? They dance. Right? And what do they sing in their songs? The similar things that Krishna sings to the gopis. They dance. Everything in Hindi movies is dancing. So there's Rasa Lila. It's all from that culture. When I look in your eyes, it's like rivers of nectar. Your face is like a million shining moons. And they sing songs like that. Where does that come from? It comes from the Shastra. They don't do that in America. When I see you, your eyes are like, they don't talk about oceans of nectar, shining like the moon. It's not like that. But that's from the Sanskrit literature. But it's all about Krishna. And they pervert it. Right? And then everybody watches it. Because their lives are so miserable. They have no love in their life. They're just washing dishes and changing diapers. So they want to watch something exciting about people falling in love, right? But the whole point is Krishna does his Leela with Radha and the gopis, so you don't have to watch these stupid Hindi movies and these other romance novels and this and that, because you can get it with Radha and Krishna. And you can go back to Godhead by getting it. Instead of reading these romance novels and these Hindi movies, what's the result? You want to leave your wife and find some girlfriend. Do something exciting. That's going to be a result of your watching that, reading a romance novel. Creating an illusion that this is what actually happens in real life when it doesn't. Right? Crazy. Crazy. So, if you're into romance novels, if you're into love stories, read the Bhagavatam. It's all there. Right? But when you read it, you'll become liberated from the desire to love materially in this world. That's the point. And you'll end up loving Krishna. Question? No? Okay. So, anyone else have any other questions? If we have no other questions, then we're going to end class. So I'll give you a minute to think. And then tomorrow morning, well, tonight we have class, 8 o'clock. We're going to read. We're continuing our course on relationships and working together, and we're going to read what Prabhupada said about it in his letters. It's very interesting, because it gives you a glimpse of Prabhupada dealing with practical issues. It's not just theoretical, it's not just philosophy, but how he dealt practically with it. It's very insightful in helping us understand what he wants for us. So that's 8 o'clock, and then maybe tomorrow, or maybe not, I'm not sure what my travel plans are yet. I have to find out. I have to talk to somebody today, and that will determine whether I'll be here tomorrow or not at this time. Anyway, just tune in and we'll see. So, Carolina says, thank you, this is so wonderful, and it helps to grow my desire for Krishna. Yeah, Krishna is wonderful, and that's why we worship him. Timothy was asking the other day that, well, where do you go if you're a Muslim or a Christian or like that? You go to the form that you worship. That's called Ishtadev, your worshipful Lord. So Krishna has many forms. So you go to your Ishtadev. So where do the Gaudiya Vaishnavas go? They want to go to Vrindavan. That's their goal. Sham Sundar, the original form of Krishna. And then Krishna expands, Krishna's to Bhagavan Swami, he expands into Mathura Krishna. It's different than Vrindavan Krishna. He expands to Dwarka Krishna, is different than Mathura Krishna and Vrindavan Krishna. It's a different pastimes, different leelas. In Dwarka, Krishna acts according to Dharma. Doesn't dance with other people's wives. He has 16,000 wives, but he expands for each family and he takes care of them. He's a king. It's a different, and it's ruled by rules and regulations, so it's different. But when Krishna's in Dwarka, he's thinking about Radharani. He's dreaming about Radharani. So that's where his heart really is. That's where the intense affection is. So if you want to get Krishna's heart, you want to follow Brajabadu Bhargena Chakalpita in the footsteps of the gopis who have manifested the highest form of worship. You want to understand their love and follow in their footsteps. That's the highest form of love. In Vaikuntha, they worship Vishnu and Narayan, and they worship according to rules and regulations. Awe and reverence. The only relationship is servitude. There's nothing more intimate than servitude, and there's no intimacy. So, Prabhupada has come to give us Braja, to give us Sham Sundar, the original form of Krishna. So, that's what we want. Okay, so we'll see everybody tonight, 8 o'clock, if you can make it. And thank you for coming. And Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.